Hey, my name's Jeff Nicholson and welcome to my YouTube channel. We've got yet another update on the Renters' Rights Bill. This is a big update. It's another win for landlords. We've got 2 or 3 of those so far, which I wasn't expecting. And this one makes a big difference to landlords that are maybe considering selling their property and that sale doesn't go through. So you decide, well, I want to go back into the rental market and get some income, at least while I'm trying to sell my property. Now, what the Renters' Rights Bill initially had in there, that if you took your property back and then you wanted to sell it, you couldn't re-rent it for at least 12 months. They backed down on that, and it's a very, very narrow vote that's actually got this to go through. It hasn't been without its controversies. There's a group of people that are really quite upset about this, so we're going to talk about that as well. Now, if you're new around here and you haven't done, do make sure you subscribe to the channel over there and hit that bell notification. We're on the way to 44,000 subscribers. In fact, we're going to hit it either tonight or tomorrow morning. Have a look around how close we are. But by subscribing, you'll get all the renters' rights updates as and when they happen. You'll also get details on house prices, on interest rates, on investing in property, and much, much more. And let's get some views on this video. How do we do that? Simple. Smash like, tick or like, do something to that like button. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm, and that's really helped the channel grow. So thank you to everybody that does that. So the Renters' Rights Bill, it's crazy. So many readings, hearings, whatever you call them, report stage we're at now. And right now we've had a vote, and this vote has worked out pretty good for landlords. And I think this is also smart for tenants as well, and I'll explain why. So this was an amendment proposed by someone called Lord Cromwell. How regal. So, but he's a landlord. So Lord Cromwell has proposed this amendment. And what their proposal was, in the Renters' Rights Bill, they were saying that if you got a tenant out of your property, one of the reasons you can evict is because you want to sell the property. So let's just say you list the property for sale and you get rid of the tenant, you would have a percentage chance that it wouldn't actually sell. And in fact, what they were saying in this amendment was that 30% of properties that get listed for sale on Rightmove never sell. So in that scenario, you might want to re-let the property. And in the Renters' Rights Bill, it said that you wouldn't be able to do that for 12 months. Well, the 12 months has been reduced down to 6 months. And that is going to make a big difference. Now, Lord Cromwell's reasoning for this wasn't always about defending landlords and making things better for landlords. Part of the argument was the fact that we don't have enough rental stock. So how ridiculous would it be to just have that property sitting empty for 12 months? Now, the counter arguments were that landlords could put the rents up and they will make rents more affordable. But they can already do that in the Renters' Rights Bill. Even when this bill passes, you will be able to increase rents. Now, of course, it can get challenged and that will happen to some people. But landlords can put rents up. There aren't any caps as we see it at the moment. Now, that could change as further amendments come. But right now, as it sits, there aren't any caps to say how much you can increase the rent by. It could go to tribunal and you could lose that. And this was one of the arguments that people were saying, that people would just evict people, say they're going to sell it, and then whack the rents up to huge increases. But the market dictates, and that's what Lord Cromwell was saying. Look, if a landlord's getting £500 in rent and they evict their tenant, right? So the tenants, unfortunately, left the property and got to find somewhere else. The landlord could put the property on for £1,000. That's possible. But if the market rent isn't £1,000 in that area, then this isn't going to work. It's going to be a total farce and a waste of time. The landlord's going to have periods of voids, which means they'll get no rent in that period of time. Plus, they're going to have to pay council tax at a higher rate because the property is going to be empty. So it's interesting to see the arguments on this. Now, there's still some parts in the bill that we need to talk about here. So if you want to sell the property, you will have to give 4 months' notice. And that's been in the bill for a while. I don't think many people would have a massive problem with that. I think if you're going to sell the property, you could give that notice. You can still list it for sale in that time. You can still get viewings for sale in that time. Obviously, you want to work with the tenant to make it so the property looks nice and they allow you to get viewings done. But if you're having some sort of dispute, that's going to be a little bit harder. And so that's why it's important to have a good relationship. Now, what they're also saying is that the first 12 months of the tenancy are protected. So what does that mean? So it means that the first 12 months, you can't give notice in order to sell the property. The tenant has to be able to stay there for at least 12 months minimum, so they can reclaim some of the fees that they've got with moving property. It costs money to move property, doesn't it? You buy new furniture, things get broken in moves, maybe you have to use a removal company. There's all sorts of costs involved in moving. So they're saying, look, tenants need to at least have the ability to stay there for 12 months. So that's positive, I think, as well. So this is interesting. Now, this vote, how close was this? Well, the yes votes on this were 213 versus the no votes were 209. So very close, 4 votes in it. It could have gone either way on that, but ultimately it was decided that this amendment would carry through, and this will make it so landlords, when they do look to sell the property, if that sale doesn't complete or doesn't go through and they need to put it back on the rental market, it won't sit there for a full 12 months as it would have to do currently as the Renters' Rights Bill sat. So I think this is a smart amendment. I don't think that this means that landlords are just going to say that they want to sell the property to get it back because they don't have the Section 21. I think you'd have to be a bit silly to just have an empty property for 6 months. I think you're going to only list that property for sale if you're really serious about selling that property. So interesting stuff here. So who's not happy about this? Well, there's a coalition. They're called the Renters' Rights Coalition. And they're saying this is not great. They're saying it's unfair. They're saying it's biased towards landlords. And they said that landlords are just going to cause more problems doing this, evicting people and ultimately pushing rents up. The MPs on the whole didn't agree with that because landlords can put rents up. I don't think you'd go through this whole process to necessarily increase rents. But I'd like to know what you think about this. Ultimately, we're going to see more amendments to this Renters' Rights Bill, probably next week as well. Let me know in the comments what you think they might be. It'd be interesting to see when they start debating and talking about what's happening with this Section 21 stuff. Do they delay it by any means? That will be interesting to see where that goes. If you haven't done already as well, investing in property is tougher at the moment. I can't argue that, but you can still make good money the right way, doing things the right way. And I'm talking about finding properties below market value, setting up the company structure so you can run it through a company, and doing things to get the property value increase. So how can you add value to that? Well, we've got a course called The Fundamentals of Property Investing. Everyone sells this for thousands of pounds. We sell it for £20. £20 one-time fee. I'm going to link to it in the description. It's on flash sale till Sunday night at midnight. So do grab a copy. Hundreds of people have already grabbed that in the last few days. Thank you to everyone that's done that. Do make sure you smash subscribe. Do check out all the other content as well on the channel, including this video right here.